Arthur Conan Doyle was a British writer and best known for being the creator of Sherlock Holmes, the detective. In A Case of Identity, Doyle presents a simple detective story involving a daughter, lover, and father relationship. It deals with wit, sharp reasoning, practical intelligence, and uncommon imaginative vitality. As the story opens, Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson debates over how reality of human life was stranger than any fictional stories. Dr. Watson disagrees, saying that the things that happen in our day-to-day life is just as simple as fiction. To support his opinion, he pulls out the newspaper and read the headline, "A husband's cruelty to his wife," which he just guessed that it must be the story of a drunk husband, affair with another woman, or domestic violence by the husband, and some kind of sympathetic sister or landlady. But Sherlock Holmes corrected him, saying that it was actually about a husband who was teetotaler. That means someone who does not drink at all. There was no affair with another woman, but just this husband's habit of taking out his artificial teeth and throwing it at his wife every time after his meal. And this was a strange thing that no fiction writer could ever imagine. Sherlock Holmes also tells Dr. Watson that usually the most unimportant matters and things that people usually ignore are the quickest ways to solve cases. These small details gives the charm to an investigation, according to him. As they were discussing over the strangeness of reality comparing to fiction, they saw a woman on the other side of the road moving nervously forward and backward, hesitating and suddenly coming towards them. Sherlock Holmes quickly analyzed that her nervous movement showed that she had a problem too delicate or embarrassing, yet important to discuss. He felt it could be the problem of love life, but she didn't seem too angry or grieved about it. She came to meet them. Her name was Miss Mary Sutherland. She had just barely walked in and Holmes asked her, "Don't you find it difficult to type so much with your short-sightedness?" She instantly replied, "At first I did, but now I know where the letters are without looking." But after saying so, she was taken aback. How did Holmes know that she was short-sighted and a typist, and asked if he knew her? Holmes replied that it was just his profession to notice the little details that make him know things without being told. The woman then told Mr. Holmes that she earned £100 a year and more from being a typist, and she was willing to give him any amount. If only Holmes could tell the whereabouts of her lover, Mr. Hosmer Angel. On being asked why she came in a hurry, Miss Sutherland told him that she banged out of her house because her stepfather didn't take the matter of the disappearance of her lover seriously. According to Windy Beck, the disappearance of her lover did not mean anything harmful to anybody. She also told Holmes that her stepfather was much younger than her mother, just about 4 years older than Miss Mary Sutherland herself. She could not even call her father. He, after getting married to Miss Sutherland's mother, made her sell off her dead father's business at a cheap amount of £4,700. Miss Mary, on the other hand, received her own money of £100 every year from her uncle Ned in Auckland, New Zealand. She gave her £100 to her mother as long as she lived with her mother, and as long as she was not married. She was already earning enough as a typist for herself. Miss Mary Sutherland told Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson that she met Hosmer Angel at the Gasfitter Ball. In spite of the fact that her stepfather never allowed her to go to public places or meet anybody, when her stepfather would go to France for business, she would meet Hosmer Angel. Her stepfather would always advise her that a woman should be happy in her own family circle. Hosmer Angel and Mary Sutherland would keep in touch through writing letters. He would tell her to send her letters in handwritten, and he himself would typewrite his letters. He told Miss Mary that he worked as a cashier in an office in Leadenhall, but never told which office. She also said that Hosmer Angel was a shy and private type of person who never met her during the day. He also had a sickness of swollen glands in his throat, and that had caused him to have a weak whispering voice. His eyesight was also weak, just like Miss Mary, so he wore colored or tinted glasses covering his eyes. Mr. Hosmer also persuaded her to promise and swear with her hands on the Bible, the Testament, that she would never fall in love with another guy or never marry another person, no matter what happens, and that she would marry him alone. Even her mother encouraged her relationship with Hosmer. Miss Sutherland wanted to inform the stepfather, Mr. Windybank. Well, whether she liked it or not, Mr. Windybank was her stepfather, so she thought it necessary to tell about her relationship with Hosmer Angel. But both Hosmer Angel and the mother persuaded her not to worry about it. However, she wrote a letter informing about her relationship with Hosmer and about their engagement or marriage while he was still in France. On the wedding day, Miss Mary and her mother rode on a handsome horse carriage, and Hosmer got into a cab and drove to St. Saviour's Church near the King's Cross. But on reaching the church, Hosmer disappeared, never to be seen again. And when Sherlock Holmes told her that it must have been very embarrassing, she simply replied that, oh, Hosmer must have his own reasons, because he called the next day to remind her that he would come to claim her and that she should never forget that she was sworn to him and him alone. She was deeply and madly in love that Hosmer's words somehow made sense to her. On being asked about her parents' reactions, she said that her mother was furious, but told her never to speak about the event to anyone, while her stepfather said that Hosmer must have some seriously important thing to attend to, that he would write again. Miss Mary Sutherland also gave her stepfather's address, his workplace, and her 4 letters from Hosmer, and also her lost advertisement, which she put up in the Chronicle as requested by Sherlock Holmes. Holmes advised her not to be affected by the disappearance of Hosmer and his belief that she might never see him again, but he would try and find his whereabouts. Soon after she left, Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson discussed about Miss Mary Sutherland, and Holmes said that when she walked in, he noticed her sleeves and rightly knew that she was a typist from the way she had marks on her sleeves. Secondly, the dint on either side of her nose revealed that she was short-sighted. Thirdly, her half-buttoned boots revealed that she came in a hurry. Fourthly, she also had her gloves finger dipped in ink, showing that she had written a note in a hurry and in the process dipped her pen too deep. Then he read the lost advertisement of Hosmer Angel put in the Chronicle, which said that Hosmer Angel was 5'7", a strongly built man with a sallow complexion, black hair, little bald in the center, bushy and black-sided whiskers and mustache. He wore tinted glasses and had slight weakness in speech. Holmes then sent 2 letters, one to Mr. Windybank and one to Mr. Windybank's workplace, which was the West House and Mar Bank, the great claret importers of French Church Street. And writing in the letter that was sent to Mr. Bank, he asked him if he could meet them at 6 o'clock. Mr. Windybank sent a typed reply to Mr. Holmes saying that he would come to meet them. When Mr. Windybank came, Holmes explained the similarity between his typed letter and Hosmer Angel's typed letter. They had many similarities, but the most obvious ones were the little slurring of the E and the slight defect in the tail of the R. According to the detective Sherlock Holmes, even typewriters have individuality as a man's handwriting, and that Hosmer's letter and Windybank's letters came from the same typewriter. He revealed Mr. Windybank's main intention, saying that he had married Mary Sutherland's mother, a woman much older than himself, for her money. How he enjoyed the money of the daughter, £100 a year, as long as she remained unmarried, and tried to forbid her from socializing with other people and to keep her unmarried. And along with his wife, they tricked her into believing that she was in love and bound to Mr. Hosmer Angel, who was actually the stepfather in disguise, with tinted glasses, mustache and beard, insinuating whispering voice, and taking advantage of Mary Sutherland's short-sightedness. He made her swear never to fall in love with anyone else or marry anybody else, and then disappeared by getting into a cab through one door and getting out through the other door, thus finding a permanent solution to the flow of money. Mr. James Windibank was shocked and terrified that he was caught now by the detective Sherlock Holmes, so he tried to excuse himself and rushed out of the house, and Holmes predicted again that he would go on to commit more crimes until he find himself in prison. When Dr. Watson asked how he solved the case, Holmes replied that the only person who got advantage through the whole situation was the stepfather. Secondly, from Mary Sutherland's description of Hosmer Angel, he removed all the suggestive details from the physical appearance of Hosmer Angel and asked if any person of that detail worked at West House and Marben, and the office responded that it was Mr. James Windibank that he was describing. Thirdly, according to Sutherland's narration, the lover and the stepfather were never together. When one appeared, the other was away. Fourth was the use of the same typewriter to write letters by both Windibank and Hosmer Angel, and how the lover, Mr. Hosmer, preferred typewriting his letters for the fear that his handwriting might reveal his true identity. Collecting all these informations and bringing them together, he finally came to his conclusion that Mr. Windibank himself was Mr. Hosmer Angel. When Dr. Watson asked if he would reveal the truth to Miss Sutherland, Holmes replied that she would not believe any of it, so he would not. He reminds Dr. Watson of the old Persian poet Hafiz's quotation, "There is danger for him who taketh the tiger cup, and danger also for him who snatches a delusion from a woman." Which means that taking the delusion of a woman or the belief of a woman is as dangerous as taking a tiger's cup. Apart from his own detective theories, Sherlock Holmes also never forgot the great sayings of legendary knowledgeable people, including Hafiz and Horace, who was a Roman poet. That concludes our discussion of A Case of Identity by Arthur Conan Doyle. I hope it was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.